Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
My anus is bleeding.
He can't sit down.
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Beta male.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. I tell you, don't do it.
Oops.
We're under attack. It is an alien force, not of this world. It's not human intelligence.
Bullshit.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Bullshit.
It's not a salami sandwich.
Disappointed!
Repeat the line.
Disappointed!
How you like that, boy?
No.
Give me a break.
Stop it.
Fired.
Fired! Fired!
Bitch, move it along.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
The nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Monday. Welcome. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, as usual. We're back. It's a Monday, and we got plenty of stories here. Yes, we're going to take a look at the Twitter files. The Twitter files. We got dumps, everybody. We got
big massive dumps.
Going to be fun. We're going to go through those. We're going to go out and see whether or not it's a fail. Then we have the reaction. First, we've got right-wingers saying things that aren't true. A big surprise, right? And then we have Donald Trump basically calling for the suspension of the Constitution. The termination, of the Constitution. Fun. We then are going to drop by the Kanye campaign and see if there's any developments going on there. Maybe a little staffing shakeup. And then finally, not winning police officer of the year, a cop in Florida, because of course Florida accidentally shoots and kills his friend. Oops. That's disastrous. And once again, we go to Brevard County for that story. So yeah, Florida, everybody. And with that said, I'm going to start out with a deep dive into the Twitter files and what it means, what's going on here, and what has lit the right wing on fire. All right. So with that said, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Again, helps us out. With that, dive in. Ooh. All right. So, on Friday, CEO of Twitter and owner Elon Musk released the Twitter files. So the Twitter files lit the right wing on fire. What is the Twitter files? Apparently, it is supposed to be a dump, a gigantic dump of information here about supposed bias by Twitter helping Joe Biden get elected by hiding information. So we'll get into the details, but essentially, they're dumps.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
All right. And of course, the right wing loves dumps. So let's get into it. So now, interestingly enough, this was released by journalist Matt Taibbi. So Matt Taibbi has actually done some really good journalism in the past. So it's kind of curious that he's out there releasing this information about Twitter. So that said, there is actually some things in there that do concern people on the left. So it is important. But at the same time, what the right wing is glommed onto is utter nonsense. So let's dive in. So now, again, these are files provided to Matt Taibbi, who posted about them on Twitter. They were supposed to be a bombshell about the First Amendment, free speech, and censorship on the platform. So here's the context of what's going on. In October 2020, just weeks before the election day, the New York Post published, at the time, the alleged contents of Hunter Biden's laptop. So here we go. We're talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. That's what this is all about. So now, that said, the information came to them from Rudy Giuliani in the form of a hard drive with information allegedly taken from Hunter Biden's laptop that was said to have been left at a Delaware computer store. So now, that said, at the time, we didn't know, is this fake? Is this legit? Like, is it real? Now, judging from where it came from, i.e. Rudy Giuliani, whom no one should trust, at least without a thorough examination into what they're providing, most of the news agencies, including Fox News, mind you, right-wing media, that wasn't trash blogs, passed on it. But of course, the trash blogs loved it. And so New York Post, which is one of those, or at least trash publications, decides, no, we're going to run it. Now, normally what would happen is that they would pick up the story, they would run the story, the right wing would freak out about it, and mainstream news might report it a little bit after the right wing blows up and freaks out about it, and then we'll have a conversation. But that didn't happen this time. Not in the Biden laptop, not originally. So what happened actually is what Matt Taibbi is calling censorship. Is that basically Twitter decided, no, we're going to shut the story down. So I actually disagree with that. I think that, what Twitter did in basically banning mentions of the story and then, suspending the New York Post along with anybody who shared the story off the platform, I thought that was the wrong move to do. Again, because it's just another part of the ridiculous news cycle. That said, right, that's not what the right wing is freaking out about. So now look, getting back to the contents of the laptop, right? There's a lot of salacious information in it, and a lot of it's actually been proven to be legit, that it actually was his laptop. So the New York Post, as I said, published it. We were all skeptical. Not, of course, the idea that Hunter Biden may have engaged in personal corruption off his name. No, that's like, come on, pretty much everybody who has a famous name can do that and has done that. Again, for a really good example, you just have to look at Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. Now, of course, the issue with that isn't the same as Hunter Biden, is that Hunter Biden was never in office, never in the White House. Whereas Ivanka Trump obviously was and got special deals. But okay, that said, we also found out that, Hunter Biden had some serious personal issues. And again, actually, I can't even say that we found out because we already kind of knew that already. That said, U.S. intelligence agencies, they warned everybody that, hey, this looks like it's got the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. Okay, so now on that, I just want to ask, has U.S. intelligence ever been wrong? Yes, a lot. So many times. Of course they have. But as I said, Twitter gets involved, suspends the Twitter account of the Post, anybody who shares the story, and I definitely agree with right-wingers that sucks. That's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do that. But where the right is incorrect is the reason why. But first, more of what happened. Now, Twitter eventually caught on and reversed the decision and reactivated the New York Post. And that's the Twitter account, along with countless others, banned for sharing the Hunter Biden story. Then CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, admitted during a congressional hearing that they had made a mistake and that if they could do it all over again, they would have handled it differently. As in, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know if appending something to the New York Post story would have been appropriate at the time. And so I actually think that they should have left it alone. Because, you know, the right wing comes up with all sorts of crazy stories. Why not just let them do it? Because in reality, when you try to clamp down on that, you create the Streisand effect and it actually amplifies the story more when you try to shut it down. So that, as I said, it never should have happened. Again, think about it this way. Think about it if it was the Steele dossier and you had a social media company that shut that down. Now, much of the Steele dossier, except for the most salacious parts, was verified as legitimate. Imagine if that had been banned. Liberals would be furious, and rightly so. And if you're progressive, think about shutting down anybody who shared Hillary's emails. Any publication that had shared Hillary Clinton's emails, which again turned out to be legit. And while there wasn't any like super weird smoking guns or anything like that, it did show you a lot of what Hillary Clinton thought during her campaign in the public and private face, etc. So that said, it's sort of the same thing. But again, going back to where the right wing is stupid and wrong. They think that if the Hunter Biden story hadn't been shut down by social media, suppressed, then Trump would have won the 2020 election. And let me tell you, that's wrong, because the 2020 election was a referendum on COVID, which the Trump administration had botched to such a degree that anyone would have beaten him. Honestly. Especially since, you know, what it showed, or I should say, nobody really cared about the Hunter Biden story. Nobody who didn't already hate Joe Biden and supported Trump cared about the laptop. That's why I said, why not let the story go? It'd run for a couple of weeks and peter out. As all of these, you know, right-wing supposed bombshells normally do. And again, while this showed that Hunter Biden is a deeply troubled person, it also showed that there wasn't any impact in the policies of the Biden administration. Again, it wouldn't have gained that much traction outside of right-wing circles had Twitter not banned it. By doing so, again, Streisand effect. Okay, but anyway, let's get into some of the tweets. So now, as I said, turns out what most of what Taibbi had tweeted was stuff that we already knew. But the one thing that conservatives jumped on the most was this tweet. Let me bring that up. It's tweet number 8 in the thread. All right. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team, the reply would come back handled. And you notice that there's a link of different tweets here. So, now, there's something problematic here in the fact that you have connected people that can request information be removed. I mean, off social media. And it's likely these connected officials have their requests granted. That said, in this case, the Biden team was actually in the right for requesting these because most of these, I believe a lot of these tweets contained images of Hunter Biden's penis, which would have broken TOS against non-consensual nudity. So the Biden team reached out. I was like, hey, there are pictures of Hunter Biden's dick. That can't go around. Here it is. This breaks even your own rules. You should probably get rid of them. And like, oh, yeah, no, of course. We do not want non-consensual
Tallywhack
on our platform. We got to get rid of it. Totally agree. Handled. So now, look, unfortunately, Taibbi didn't really mention that part of it, but was focusing on that, hey, we have the campaign team for Biden reaching out, these connected individuals telling people, telling Twitter, or asking Twitter, I should say, to delete these tweets. And I think that's problematic. Okay. So, like I said, regardless of what was in it, conservatives do claim that this is a violation of free speech. But let me just say, free speech does not exist on non-governmental platforms. But they also, argued that it was the government doing the censorship. But let's go back to the tweet, or I should say the email in question. You notice the date on that? That is Saturday, October 24th, 2020. You know who was president at that time? Refresh me. Who was president?
Obama.
No, it was not. It was not Obama. Who could it have been?
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Oh, I know. Donald Trump. It certainly wasn't Joe Biden. So now it was the Joe Biden campaign that reached out to Twitter to ask them to remove pornographic images that broke Twitter's TOS. So when you look at the reason, that seems pretty above board. I don't see an issue here. I don't see an issue at all. So now, they also go to the 10th tweet here. So let me bring that up. This is also important context that Taibbi puts, that apparently the right wing ignores. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. And of course, he adds a however, because he goes on to argue that Twitter was still biased in favor of Biden, which is the whole crux of the argument, which is the whole point of publicizing these Twitter files. That said, okay, both campaigns do it. I'd like to see what kind of tweets the Trump campaign, I'm sorry, did I say campaign? I meant the Trump White House, since he happened to be president at the time, had reached out to Twitter to ask for them to be removed, and that Twitter had removed. I'm kind of curious. Taibbi doesn't point that out, and I really wish he would, because I'm curious to see that as well. Because if both sides do it, right? And the argument here from the right is that, well, the left is using the power of the government to force Twitter to do censorship, or to collude with Twitter to do censorship just against conservatives. So, look, so far, what you see here is no smoking gun. There really isn't anything that you can point at 100% to prove that the bias from Twitter employees that they had to, towards certain campaigns were, had filtered down into them doing their jobs, since they had done this for both campaigns. Both campaigns requested they take certain tweets down, and Twitter honored those requests. The only thing they can legitimately point out is the removal of the New York Post and the mentions of the Hunter Biden story, which then they had come back and corrected later on. That does not show that the government was suppressing the free speech of conservatives. There were political campaigns asking private companies to moderate content. And so, again, not government, private corporations. So to recap all of this, requests to take down non-consensual pornographic images do not implicate the First Amendment. They do not suggest a grand conspiracy to censor conservatives in order to help impact the outcome of the election, or as, Herschel Walker would put it,
This election is about the people.
Yeah. Now, Taibbi, of course, could come out with more that proves otherwise. But so far, it's sort of an issue more of with executives at private companies inserting themselves improperly into partisan debates. Now, and that is a problem, and I agree with that. And it is something that maybe we need to look at. But the conservative reaction to it to all of this is not at all in line with what Taibbi's reporting actually uncovered. And so as far as this being a impeachable offense to Biden, who wasn't even president yet, this bombshell seems less explosive and more dud. There was direct communication between the government and Twitter, the government and Facebook, and the government and Instagram. And that proves what? Yeah, these companies talk to each other and the government. There's no indication that the government was using the power of the government to order these companies to censor and remove speech. You don't have that. You have to make that case. And by the way, if there's an order here, that would mean that there would be some sort of consequences for not following that order. And again, there's nothing spelled out at all in this that shows the government was saying, do this or else, which, as I said before, the government under Donald Trump, who was still president at the time. And even now, as Joe Biden is president, hasn't come out with do this or else. Remove this account or we will do something to you. So I'm sorry, not sorry, dud. Bring actual evidence of that and we will reconsider. Okay. Moving on. Let's get to the reaction here.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
We're going to continue with more dumps. Because of course. All right. On Friday night, journalist Matt Taibbi tweeted a thread about the Twitter's handling or mishandling of the Hunter Biden story. And right-wingers went absolutely wild. Oh, we knew it. Twitter taking orders from the Biden regime. Censorship. It's the government. First Amendment. That's what they're doing. They're crushing conservatives. Except that it wasn't the Biden administration. Donald Trump was still president at the time. The election hadn't even happened yet. Twitter had been consistently asked by both campaigns to remove certain tweets, and the ones in question, of course, involved pornographic pictures of Hunter Biden. That said, Taibbi did reveal one thing, and that's Twitter, that Twitter, and these, by the way, not just Twitter, but Facebook, all these different companies, they then tend to favor wealthy, influential people and actors. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, big surprise. Big surprise. And we knew that before. How is that a new thing? And look, by the way, they do remove and did remove content and accounts that they shouldn't have. Not on the orders of any government official, but in an effort, I think, to try to play it safe. Again, they had been talked to about, hey, be careful. There's, disinformation campaigns. There's, Russian bots and trolls. And we really don't want to, get in any hot water and loot advertisers or anything like that, because we helped a fascist get reelected. So I get that. They played it safe. They're a big corporation. They care all about money. And that's what this decision was about. It was about money. It was about trying to keep advertisers and not to get blamed. Because, again, one thing that the Clinton administration, but the Clinton campaign had done after they had lost in 2016 to Donald Trump was blame everyone. They blame the Russians. They blame Bernie Sanders. They blame progressives. They blame young people. They did everything except for blame what was really at fault here, and that's just running a bad campaign against a monster. I mean, as simple as that. And so, these social media companies got swept up in that. And they didn't want to lose advertisers. They didn't want to lose, get in trouble with those advertisers, lose money by being called into Congress to be like, hey, what's going on? We hear that you, allowed Russian bots to make Hillary lose. But anyway, that is messed up. And by the way, Twitter itself did do censorship, and that was wrong. I think we can all agree on that. But that's not what many in the right are actually saying. So let's get to some responses here. Let's go to podcaster Buck Sexton. Oh boy. And again, one of the biggest surprises here is having somebody named Buck Sexton. Here's what he said. So we approve Biden's White House engaged in bright red line violations of the First Amendment to suppress disfavored speech, especially as it related to their election prospects. This is a massive scandal, and Biden should be rightly impeached for it. Yeah, impeach Biden. You know.
Peachtree dish.
Impeach. Really? Well, okay, hold on. You want the Biden administration impeached for something that happened before he was president. That doesn't make any sense, guys. Not even for you. Not even for the right wing. They understand how time works. Biden was president during the time that this had happened. It was literally before an election. But then he followed up with this because, people called him out. And so he responded, for all the, but he wasn't president in 2020. Yeah, which completely defeats your argument. Guess what? Biden's team continued while they were in the White House to push Twitter to shadow ban, cancel, etc. while in office. See Alex Berenson for just one example. Pathetic. The libs are cheats and frauds. Deal with it. Yeah, how about no? How about you're a moron?
You idiot.
No. Okay. Look, the entire charge here is this. That Biden did this to influence an election. Well, if he had already won, which he did, then how's he influencing the election? Again, that's responding to Buck Sexton's follow-up argument. That already proved him wrong. How can you influence an election that you already won? By shadow banning conservatives. Pushing Twitter. By the way, pushing just means having a conversation with executives in Twitter and being like, "Hey, I'd really like it if you take this down. I mean, we're not in favor of this." Now Twitter could straight up just go, "No, we don't feel like taking it down. We believe in free speech." And you could do that, but Elon Musk could do that today. There's no violation of the First Amendment when the government just asks you to do something and you can tell them to F off. Once you cannot tell the government to F off because they come in with guns and troops and whatever, start arresting you, that's when there's a free speech violation. So what Biden is doing is what all campaigns have done, including the Trump administration, reaching out to private social media companies to request they remove things that don't look favorable to them. Do I like it? No. But do they all do it? Yes. So that said, Buck has a lot of feelings, not a lot of facts, not a lot of evidence. In fact, no evidence. So he deleted that tweet, by the way, that I showed you and replaced it with free speech principles instead of the First Amendment because there was no violation of the First Amendment. He knows that he was wrong. But it gets more unhinged. See, Buck Sexton, very mild, calling for the impeachment of the president for doing something allegedly that happened when he was the president. That's mild for conservatives these days. No, now we have Republican congressional candidate Shukri Abdurrahman, who, by the way, is had competed against Ilhan Omar. She instead called for violent armed revolution. Here's what she said. We can no longer get rid of tyranny by the ballots. It's only by bullets now. Jesus Christ, girl. Going a little hard, are you? She continued, I'm done. I regret that I put my life in the line to defend these Nazis and that so many of my brothers and sisters in arms died for. two pillars of a successful republic are election integrity and confidence in our democratic processes. We have neither. You have neither. Again, it's not the left that doesn't believe in democracy. It's a lot of right-wingers that are not believing in our democratic processes because they think they see fraud everywhere. I see voter fraud over there. No, that's just somebody voting. But what about over there? No, that's somebody dropping off ballots in a drop box. Okay, but what about over there? That's just a black person voting. Come on, dude. Are you serious? Are you serious? Okay. Then Abdurrahman added, quote, "This is treason and the real insurrection." Jesus Christ. More. "This wasn't by Russia. It's done by our own effing government." No, it wasn't. Joe Biden wasn't even president at the time. By the way, I guess you could make the point. Who was president? Oh, right, Trump. And Trump, his campaign had asked for Twitter to remove tweets. That comes from the Twitter files themselves. Nobody seems to remember that. And then finally, of course, we're going to add, she's going to add, "Just so you know, at Hillary Clinton, Elon Musk is not suicidal."
You idiot.
I'm telling you. What? Okay. All right. Anyway, there are other reactions. And by the way, these reactions are actually not unhinged. So I give you all the insane stuff to then kind of dial it back a little bit. Let me go here to Miranda Devine, Devine. She was talking with Tucker Carlson on Friday, and here's what she said. Quote, "Look, I think we've seen quite a bit that's useful, all right? It's not really the smoking gun we'd hoped for. But I feel that Elon Musk has held back some material." Well, bring it forward. Let's do it. Bring it forward. Bring it forward. Let's see more of it. But that's not the only person that is kind of poo-pooed a little bit, a little let down by the lack of a smoking gun. Here's Fox and Friends' Will Cain.
As much as we have seen from what Elon has released about the coordination between the government and Twitter, there isn't necessarily a smoking gun yet when it comes to your case, Hunter Biden. In other words, we don't have the government official saying, "Spike that." Do you think that probably exists? Do you expect that somewhere and is yet to be seen? We see a Twitter that's ready and willing to do what the government wants, or in this case, the DNC. It was actually the DNC at this time, so the Democratic Party. But we haven't yet seen who made the call and who put it in their mind.
Well, I believe Zuckerberg described at least the FBI and Facebook's interaction as predominantly in person or over the phone.
Right.
I think the FBI is smart enough not to create a paper trail when it comes to affecting the course of an election.
So that was, by the way, John Paul Mac Isaac, who is the computer guy. You're bringing the computer guy on to do a political analysis about the FBI and this investigation into the lab. Why? Look, John Paul Mac Isaac probably knows a lot about computers. Why are you asking about politics? Why are you asking him to do analysis? What is going on here? Now look, but basically, they ain't got no evidence. They ain't got no smoking gun. It don't exist. Okay, so look, did Twitter do bias? Sure, I guess maybe you can argue that bias is now, Twitter is massively biased now in favor of conservatives. But you can make a little bit of an argument, I guess, that the people working there were biased towards people who are more liberal. Okay, that's what happens. What's funny is that conservatives, tend to look at political donations. And again, that's what one of the things that Matt Taibbi had shared in his thread as well is, oh, well, look, Twitter employees are biased because look at all the donations from Twitter employees to Democrats. All right. Hey, I guess you could make a little bit of a case there that yes, the employees are biased. But does the right tend to talk about how, or I should say, talk about political donations to right-wingers in the same way? How is that not corruption when they do it, but it's only corruption when, the people who are biased towards liberals in these Silicon Valley tech companies? Why does it not apply to everyone equally? I'm just kind of curious how they tend to ignore that. It's very interesting. But again, what we're coming down to here is a private corporation. That's what Twitter is. Facebook's a private corporation. They can have whatever bias they want. Again, you don't have free speech on these platforms. You sign a terms of service, and if you violate those terms of service, or at any time, by the way, the terms of services, we can ban you for whatever reason we want. We don't care. It's our platform. If you don't like it, and look, I don't like it. That's why I'm in favor of having a nationalized social media, which just means the First Amendment applies because it's run by the government. That would be bound by the laws of free speech, by the way. And by the way, having it run by a nonpartisan board, so you don't have these, whichever side that happens to be in power controlling who speaks. Because again, can see some possible issues. But if you have this nonpartisan board that guarantees that, within the limits of free speech, again, you can't threaten people, you can't dox people, you can't harass people, things like that, which are just normal, right? Normal rules that we have already, because free speech doesn't mean that you can go and put someone in danger. I'd be fine with that. But I'm guessing that right-wingers, a lot of Republicans wouldn't be fine with that because that would be socialism. So I guess choose. What they want in reality is a social media that caters only to what they want. Parler, Gab, True Social, and now Twitter. Okay. What would a nationalized social media site look like? Do I have some present examples? I don't have any examples. I don't think it's been done. But I do know that there could be absolutely some potential drawbacks for it for sure. And by the way, it wouldn't mean that it's the only thing available as well. It would mean that it is one of the options that is actually not run by a private corporation for profit, so you wouldn't have people, for example, selling you as a product, which we do currently on all these social media sites right now. I mean, you are the product. Your metadata, your information is the product, and they monetize that information and serve you ads based on that, based on the information that they gain to you that are personalized or targeted, etc. And so I don't have any examples. I'm not sure if it exists. The BBC, no, it's a social media company. What I mean, China. Let's not go in that direction. But to have one that does actually guarantee free speech and First Amendment protections for all the users that choose to sign up. But anyway, that's a good question. It is an interesting question. I would like to look into that. Such a platform would be co-opted by the right wing in one 4-year election cycle by a bunch of tech elites being appointed to decision-making positions as soon as the GOP had power, says Make Believe Dragon. And again, the details there, that is a possibility depending on how it's done. And so that's why you would have to have like a nonpartisan board, not filled with political appointees. I don't know how they would be appointed. I'm uncomfortable with there being elections, but then again, would appoint them. And so those are the things that you would have to really kind of suss out these details. But again, there's not a lot of people other than what you see here that's willing to have that conversation. MySpace is social media, and I don't recall any algorithm pushing things. True. true. Okay. That's it. Let's go to the next story here. Let's get the Trump reaction. Former President Donald Trump on Friday weighed in on the Twitter files, writing this on Truth Social. So, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception, and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC, and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, Jesus, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, and even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So understand that goes really hard. Really hard. So because a social media company had conversations with both campaigns, the Biden and the Trump campaign, which, by the way, Trump in the White House at the time, that means you can suspend the Constitution? What? No, that's ridiculous. And by the way, incredibly authoritarian. If we went by that standard, which is a ridiculous standard, let's not do that, then the FBI, under James Comey, who announced the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails right before that election in 2016, should have invalidated it. We should have had a new election. Oh, wait. Look, let me give you the details on that. After the FBI director sent his letter to Congress on October 28th, 2016, about the discovery of new Clinton emails and the Bureau's plans to assess them, Trump praised Comey for his guts and called the news bigger than Watergate. Now, he was, again, a candidate at the time. Clinton went on to lose that election, and yet a report found that former FBI Director James Comey had made the serious error of judgment when he announced right before that election that he was reopening an investigation into her use of a private email server. Now, look, that is incredibly relevant, in my opinion. Keep that in mind. But first, using either of these examples, the case of the government itself intervening right before an election, which is the FBI in this case, James Comey, that potentially harms a candidate, is what Republicans claimed the problem was in 2020. That the Biden campaign somehow used the power of the government, which was under the control of the Trump administration, to force Twitter or bully Twitter to then delete or censor the Hunter Biden story, which, by the way, did get censored on social media, but it wasn't the government that did it. He's using that excuse, and that's absolutely ridiculous. That's, again, in the case of the Twitter files, we don't even have any government officials saying spike the story to help Joe Biden. And yet Republicans, they're still blaming Biden. Again, it's ridiculous when you see, if I made the argument that we should just redo the 2016, we should have redone the 2016 election because of James Comey. Well, no, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to use either of these examples. Again, I think what Comey did in 2016 was ridiculous and wrong. They didn't have any reason to open that investigation, but at the same time, that you can't do a do-over on that. That's not what happens. I also think that, again, Twitter burying the laptop story was wrong. One does involve the government, however, the other does not. And yet, which of these campaigns had asked the shred terminate the Constitution over it? Which one? Which one? Was it Obama? No, it was not. Come on. Now, look, on Saturday evening. On Saturday evening, Trump then doubled down, because of course he did. Writing on Truth Social, Trump again expressed his rage at the loss of the 2020 election because his ego, very, very sad. Baby. Can't let it go. Can't let it go. Which he falsely maintains was stolen from him. He said, the world is laughing at the United States of America and its corrupt and rigged presidential election of 2020. Unprecedented fraud requires unprecedented cure. Oh, and what is the cure? Well, ask him, just put me back in power. That'll cure everything. Everything. Just put me back in power. Please. Please. If it's not clear right now, he is a dictator, and all he wants to do is to be in power to escape, whatever investigations are going on right now with him, some of which are very serious. It's also very clear that he doesn't give a damn about the Constitution. He only cares about power. And of course, he ended his rant by attacking fellow Republicans, which is funny. I wonder what Mitch McConnell, the rhinos, and all the weak Republicans who couldn't get the presidential election of 2020 approved and out of the way fast enough are thinking now. They are a disgrace to our great party and to our nation, which has become a laughingstock all over the world. No, Donald Trump is a laughingstock. He's always been a laughingstock across the entire world. When Biden was elected, the rest of the world was like, oh man, we dodged that bullet. Wow. But look, he'll never stop. Of course, he'll never stop complaining and bitching about the election. Of course. But what's sad here, and again, I would say fairly expected, is the weakness of fellow Republicans to come out and denounce this. Now, here is, for example, representatives from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who did not respond on Sunday to requests for comment. Oh, Donald Trump said he wanted to suspend the Constitution. Now, I'm sure Mitch McConnell will come out and later and say, I don't think what Donald Trump has said. I don't think we should suspend the Constitution. I'm a constitutional conservative. Okay, so look, that's because Mitch McConnell hates Donald Trump's guts. We know that. But so far, on Sunday, he hadn't said anything. Now, there are others, though, that had mild, tepid criticisms, I think, and here is some of them. These are from a lot of the Sunday shows.
He has no ability to suspend the Constitution. Secondly, he says he's for it. Well, he says a lot of things but that doesn't mean that it's ever going to happen. So you got to accept exact fact from fantasy. And fantasy is that we're going to suspend the Constitution and go backwards. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to move forward as a Republican majority and as a Republican conference.
The Constitution is set for a reason. To protect the rights of every American. And so I certainly don't endorse that language or that sentiment. I think the question for everyone is how we move forward. I ran for Congress to address the challenges that we're facing and be forward-looking. Frankly, I think people are tired of looking backwards. I think people are tired of discussing the grievances of prior elections, and they want to know what we're going to do to address the challenges. And I think the former president would be well advised to focus on the future if he is going to run for president again.
Well, I first of all, I vehemently disagree with the statement that Trump has made. Trump has made, 1,000 statements in which I disagree. There is a political process that has to go forward before anybody
constitutional conservatives are pretty clear about where they value the Constitution.
Right, exactly. But
is there any scenario with suspending the Constitution?
You do get to pick the questions, but I do get to pick my answer.
I know. I'm trying to get you to answer the question I'm asking.
There is a political process that has to go forward before anybody's a front runner or anybody is even the candidate for the party. And
do you
I
condemn
think
him saying something like that?
Absolutely. And I believe, answering your question, that people certainly are going to take into consideration a statement like this as they evaluate a candidate.
Look, he doesn't actually have the ability. It's just all talk. It's just all talk. I mean, just ignore that and just keep moving forward. Forward what? You know that he's running to become president again. The things that he says actually do matter. And so he says, we're going to suspend the Constitution. We're going to terminate the Constitution. And you're going to let that guy get into power? Oh, but we should look forward. Not that. We should continue to look forward. Yes. And it's just words. He won't do anything of it. He won't do any of that. Oh, no, of course not. And we're supposed to trust that. No, he's a fascist. Look, what you have here is some pretty weak criticisms of what Trump said. Not of Trump himself, by the way, from Republicans who claim to care about the Constitution. And again, when Trump says, let's just light it on fire already, it's, that's not what they meant. He didn't actually say, that's a little uncomfortable. That's like, it's almost like Kanye coming out and saying, I love Hitler. And the right wing going, he doesn't actually mean that. Come on. No, he's literally saying it. Terminate the Constitution. That's what Trump said. But of course, he comes out later. And I'll get to that statement. But as you can see, you still have members of the party that are running cover for him. And because they're afraid. Now, they're not afraid of Trump himself. What they're really afraid of is the base, the voters, the Republican base, who, just like when it comes to the Bible, they haven't actually read the whole thing. They cherry pick out the stuff that they like and ignore the rest. And they don't actually understand what's in it. Now, later on Monday, of course, Trump comes out, denies saying that the fake news, disinformation, and then goes on to, of course, talk about the stolen election lies. But that, again, that's Trump. So there it is. All right, let's move on. I think I spent a lot of time on that segment here. So let's try to get a couple more done. Well, that didn't last long. It appears that far-right provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos has been fired from the informal 2020 presidential campaign of Kanye West, so known as Ye. Yay. According to the Daily Beast, Yiannopoulos' ouster follows a string of disastrous media appearances for the disgraced rapper, as well as infighting within the West orbit. So, of course, those media appearances include him storming off of Tim Pool's show after a very, very tiny, slight, mild, teensy little pushback on the Jewish question, and then going on InfoWars and screaming about how he loves Nazis. So, okay. Now, here's what Yiannopoulos told the Daily Beast on Sunday. He and I have come to the mutual conclusion that I should step away from his political team. I will continue to pray for Ye and all his endeavors. Yiannopoulos held a campaign manager-style role in the operation and was the first operative West brought into the fold. Following Yiannopoulos' hire, other far-right figures, including white nationalistic Fuentes and racist YouTuber Sneeko, were brought in as well. Fun. So, look, I guess the first sign here that there was trouble in paradise was, and not a lot of people noticed, I didn't know this is the first. He wasn't on the Alex Jones interview. Oh, he wasn't there. Okay. So again, I didn't think of it, of it at all. I didn't think anything of it. But apparently he had already been on the outs at that point. Now, here's what a conservative figure familiar with the internal politics of Ye's entourage said, quote, "It's like Game of Thrones, and every day is the Red Wedding." Oh, lovely. That sounds like a great working environment, everyone. isn't conservative politics fantastic? It's great. And by the way, it's not just conservative politics. Let's be fair. I think a lot of campaigns on the Democratic side are pretty cutthroat. But to be fair, on the Democratic side, they don't have literal, fascists, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis. That's something very unique to the right wing in this country. But anyway, even before Yiannopoulos' firing, tensions, according to a report here, had become public between him and Nick Fuentes. After Yiannopoulos told NBC News that Fuentes was brought to dinner with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago to make Trump's life miserable, Fuentes had contradicted him. On Sunday afternoon, allegations emerged in far-right media that Yiannopoulos was fired after attempting to make some power move against Fuentes. Oh, look at that. We got power moves going on now. Fun times. So, now look, what kind of power move are we talking about? Are we talking about like a leg drop or clothesline or what are we talking about? I mean, look, you could. So, not that I endorse this, okay? But Yiannopoulos, he could literally just probably pick up Nick Fuentes and dump him in the nearest trash can. The guy's like 100 pounds. Not a very big person. I'm just saying. Why does the bigger person not just dump the other person into a trash can, the smaller one? But anyway, and certainly a garbage can would be a great place for Nick Fuentes to be. But anyway, that said, Yiannopoulos disputed that claim. He said, look, any suggestion that I try to get anyone fired is false, especially not people I brought in myself who owe me their gratitude, loyalty, and respect. Again, this is what I love about infighting within conservatives. They get vicious. And you might think, well, what are you talking about? Vicious. What's vicious about that? No. It's the backhanded, right? I mean, of course, I brought Nick Fuentes in myself. He owes me gratitude, loyalty, respect. Owes me. That's gonna be a thing later on. It's gonna come back. We all know this. Now, the report also noted that far-right activists are grappling for influence over, I wouldn't say as much influence over Kanye, as in, like, trying to, what's really a good descriptor here for this? Tricking them, using like mental illness against him. I mean, I don't know. Certainly there's got to be some of that going on in this, because Kanye is not a smart person. And it doesn't have anything to do with, by the way, with his mental illness, at least his bipolar. Exploitation is a great word. Thank you. Yes, exploitation. They're just exploiting how stupid he is. Now, how much of a dumb, uneducated person he is. And again, add to that the fact that he doesn't take his medication. And he's being duped by all of these right-wingers. These white supremacist neo-Nazis. But anyway, that said, they note, the report notes that they're grappling for this exploitation, its ability to exploit him, and the private jet travel and other perks that come with it. Now, Yiannopoulos responded to this and said, quote, I'm not in the least bit drawn in by the perks and private jets. Maybe the others are. Oh. There's another little subtle dig there. I mean, I'm not in it for all that stuff. Maybe some people are, the very people that I may have brought in that owe me their gratitude, loyalty, and respect. Look, I don't know. That doesn't seem very subtle. Now, look, I think this is going to get nasty. I can almost guarantee that this situation is going to get nasty. That said, we haven't seen Fuentes really talk about, this. He did not return the Daily Beast request for comment. But let's get to more Yiannopoulos. Now, he claimed to the Daily Beast that he had concerns about a potential new hire on the Kanye campaign, but would not name the individual in question. But wait for it. Maybe this person will be named and shamed. It depends. Because when it comes to people like Milo Yiannopoulos, you have to understand how dirty they play. Look, you got to give credit. I know it's weird because I don't really want to give them credit. But when it comes to running dirty campaigns and being vicious, Republicans will be vicious. Oh, wow, they'll be vicious. Now, some of you are saying Laura Loomer, which is certainly a possibility. Laura Loomer, not exactly a friend of Milo Yiannopoulos, and they've been getting into I guess, they've been making some comments about each other, which is fun. But all right, that said, Milo has a history of secretly recording his so-called friends. And that he has a hard drive, I should say, full of some compromising stuff on these people. But again, he could also be lying, because that's also what they do. They lie all the time. So you can't really take any of them at face value when they say they have something or when something is going on, which is why it's such a really wild card situation. And in case if you are wondering why this actually matters, well, unfortunately, a lot of this drives the conversation. A lot of this drives narratives on the right wing, and we can't really ignore them as much as we would want to. Tucker Carlson, for example, his segments sound a lot like the stuff that Nick Fuentes says. But what Tucker Carlson does is that he takes these arguments, white supremacy, white nationalism, and tries to repackage them for maximum plausible deniability. It's still the same stuff, the same garbage, but it's spread to an audience of millions and millions of people. Again, Tucker Carlson, top-rated show. And that's why it does, unfortunately, set the agenda, set the tone for the conservative base. And so it does have implications, what happens, even in this small, so-called campaign, fake campaign. I don't know that, Kanye is running grift. You could call it that. That's why, this exploding onto the national stage does have national implications, even if it's not going to go anywhere. It sets the conversation and sets the tone, and it sets it in a, well, not a very good place. All right. Anyway, I'm out of time. I cannot believe I'm out of time already. So I'll have to leave for the cop story for tomorrow. Goddamn. All right. So with that, thank you for growing around the nation with me today. Let me look up the super chat that we had. Lone super chat. It was a quick hour. Indeed, it was. Stop. You're going to get that song stuck in my head, Frog Wizard. You don't know how susceptible I am for songs getting stuck in my head for days. Not do it. Not be happy about it. Okay. Super chat. Okay. See. Shane McAndrew says, it's pathetic to see Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper trying to own the libs to look cool and throw away their leftist cred. So Look, what I really do think it's about for Taibbi and Halper is the whole, hey, we have political campaigns that are influencing, social media companies. And I actually get that point. It's not a free speech issue, but it is an issue of, hey, we have a lot of power in these, institutions, in these private corporations that are not accountable to the rest of us. And so, yeah, they are using, at least in the case of Taibbi, there's a lot of right-wing framing here. And there's, some omissions that I pointed out in the story that were troubling on the case of Taibbi. But I think I get where he's coming from. And I do agree that these large companies should not have so much influence over what information is put out to the masses, and having those campaigns control that, not control, sorry, but try to influence that information. And can we really trust these companies, especially think about it, the kind of the inverse of the situation where you have, somebody who's going up against a Democrat. So you have like a situation where you have progressives that are going up against either a Republican president or, or a Democratic president or Democratic administration or campaign, etc., that's using the power of the media and social media, etc., to try to, delete certain things that don't help with their campaign, that might hurt their campaign. Or, and again, in the case of, if right-wingers are a right-wing organization, Elon Musk does this, against lefties on Twitter and social media, which seems to be what he's doing now. Well, that's also problematic. And so you don't want all of that. And I think that the Elon Musk taking over control of Twitter is illustrating all the fears that, yes, the right wing were baselessly talking about and claiming that were happening, but weren't. Well, he actually made those come true. Trump sabotaged the post office to try to get elected, but Twitter something. That's true. What do you mean, squishing little guys? Okay, I feel you sometimes narrate my my life in the voice of David Attenborough in my head. Okay. Anyway, so like I said, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Please like and share the stream. We're gonna do a raid here. We'll go James from the internet today. And everybody have a fantastic evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place as usual. And love you all. Remember, change begins with you. Good night.
I will eat your ass. Oh no!
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
I know words. I have the best words.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry. I have not loved this conversation.
Sexual anarchy.
Peachtree dish.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
Disappointed!